My tenant turned my rental into a secret nightclub, charging people at the door while my house got trashed. When I tried to evict him, he mocked, "Legally, I can stay for months." I smiled, then made one call to the IRS. Days later, they showed up at his door. As he was hauled away, he shouted, "You set me up," and I just waved. I own a modest 2-bedroom house in East Austin, Texas. It's not much, but it's mine. I decided to rent it out to bring in some extra income. After listing the property, I met Marcus. Marcus seemed like a dream tenant. Early 30s, charismatic, and claimed to be an entrepreneur launching a startup in Austin. His references checked out and his credit was solid. We signed the lease and he moved in without a hitch. For the first few months, everything was smooth. Rent arrived on time, and the neighbors had no complaints. I felt at ease, thinking I'd found the perfect tenant. Then, things started to shift. It began with subtle signs. The lawn, once tidy, started to look neglected. Trash bins were left out days after collection. Minor things, but they caught my attention. One evening, I received a call from Mrs. Henderson, the elderly lady next door. "Sorry to bother you," she said, "but there's been a lot of noise coming from your property lately. Loud music, cars coming and going at odd hours. It's becoming quite a disturbance." Alarmed, I decided to see for myself. That Friday night, around 11 p.m., I drove by the house. The street was packed with cars. A line of people stretched from my front door down the block. The deep thump of bass echoed from inside, and colorful lights flashed through the windows. My house had been turned into a nightclub. I parked down the street and approached the house. A large man stood at the door, collecting cash from each person before letting them in. When I tried to enter, he blocked me. $20, he said. "This is my property," I replied, pushing past him. Inside was chaos. Furniture shoved aside to make room for dancing. A makeshift bar in the kitchen stocked with alcohol. A DJ in the corner, music blasting. The air was thick with sweat, alcohol, and other unmistakable odors. I spotted Marcus near the bar, laughing with a group. I marched over. "Marcus, what the hell is going on here?" He turned, grinning. "Hey, landlord. Welcome to Club Marcus. Grab a drink and enjoy." "Club Marcus? This is my house, not a nightclub." He shrugged. "Relax. It's just a party. No harm done." "No harm? You're charging people at the door, serving alcohol without a license, and disturbing the neighborhood." His expression darkened. "Look, I pay my rent. What I do in my free time is my business. Not when it violates the lease and turns my property into a liability." He leaned in, reeking of alcohol. "Legally, even if you try to evict me, I can stay for months. Texas tenant laws and all that. So maybe think twice before making a fuss." I was stunned by his audacity. But instead of reacting in anger, I took a deep breath and stepped back. "Enjoy your evening, Marcus," I said calmly, then left. The next morning, I surveyed the damage. The lawn was littered with bottles and trash. Inside, stains on the carpet, scratches on the floors, and a lingering odor hinted at activities beyond just drinking and dancing. Determined to act, I consulted a local attorney about eviction. As Marcus smugly pointed out, Texas laws can make the process lengthy and cumbersome. Then an idea struck me. I began gathering evidence, documented the damages, recorded statements from neighbors, and obtained footage from Mrs. Henderson's security camera showing the stream of partygoers. With this information, I contacted the Internal Revenue Service, IRS. "Hello, I'd like to report potential tax evasion," I informed the agent. I detailed Marcus's unlicensed nightclub operations, emphasizing the cash transactions at the door and the likely unreported income. The agent assured me they'd look into it. Days later, driving past the property, I noticed several unmarked vehicles out front. Agents in suits were knocking on the door. Curious, I parked down the street and watched. Moments later, Marcus was led out in handcuffs, his face a mix of confusion and anger. As he was being placed into the vehicle, our eyes met. "You set me up," he shouted. I simply smiled and waved. The moment Marcus shouted, "You set me up," and disappeared into the back of the federal car, I felt something close to relief. But I didn't get to enjoy that peace for long. 3 days later, I got a call. Not from the police, not from the IRS, but from a man who refused to give his name. "You think this is over?" he said. "You messed with the wrong people. Club Marcus wasn't just a party." Click. I stood in my kitchen, phone still to my ear, heart pounding. I had thought Marcus was just some wannabe party promoter. But that call made something clear. This was deeper. And possibly dangerous. Later that week, I visited the property again. It had been quiet since the IRS came. The house looked abandoned now. I figured I'd start cleaning up, maybe bring in some contractors to fix what Marcus destroyed. But when I opened the front door, my stomach dropped. The place had been ransacked. Worse than before. Graffiti covered the walls, some words, some symbols I didn't recognize. Broken glass littered the floor. Furniture had been smashed. The smell of smoke clung to everything. Someone had come back. Someone was sending a message. I filed a police report. The officer who came out looked tired and half-interested. "Probably friends of your tenant," he said. "You got cameras?" "Only on the neighbor's side," I said. "They caught the parties, not this." He shrugged. "We'll file the report, but unless someone comes forward, there's not much we can do." I called my insurance company. They gave me the usual script. Send photos, fill out forms, wait for approval. But in the meantime, I had a broken home and a threat hanging in the air. That night, I barely slept. Every creak outside had me checking the window. My dog barked at nothing. I kept thinking, what if Marcus wasn't just throwing parties? What if he was moving something else through my house? Money? Drugs? I went back to the property the next day to dig through the damage more carefully. In the coat closet, behind a stack of broken picture frames, I found a locked metal box. It wasn't mine. It was heavy. I brought it home and pried it open with a screwdriver. Inside were stacks of receipts, handwritten ledgers, names, dates, amounts, hundreds, maybe thousands of entries. It looked like records of cash payments, names matched nights, and there were comments like VIP, plus $200, security tip, $50, door count, 183. Marcus had been keeping detailed records of everything, which was odd considering how illegal all of it was. Maybe he thought he'd go legit one day. Or maybe this was just for whoever he was answering to. At the bottom of the box was a cheap flip phone. It was dead. I charged it, and when it turned on, dozens of texts lit up the screen. Most were coded initials, slang, numbers. But some were clear. "You better get our cut this time. Last week you short. Don't make us come down. You get popped, you keep quiet. Or we come for your family." This wasn't a party ring. It was something more organized. I copied everything, scanned the ledgers, took photos of the texts. Then I made another call, this time not to the IRS. I called a friend I hadn't spoken to in years, Darnell. We used to work together in private security before I got into real estate. Darnell had connections. Not always clean ones, but reliable. "You in deep?" he asked when I told him what I found. "I think Marcus was part of something bigger. I don't know what, but I need to know what I'm sitting on before I go to the cops." Darnell showed up that night. He flipped through the papers, shook his head and said, "You just cracked a side hustle for one of the local sets. This ain't small time, man. This box, it's evidence. And a target." He wasn't wrong. The next morning, my car window was smashed. No radio stolen. No glove box rifled through. Just shattered glass. A message. I decided to hide the box. Not at my house. Not at the rental. Somewhere no one would look. I chose my cousin's garage. He lives 40 minutes away in Round Rock. Barely uses the space. I didn't tell him what was in the box. Back in Austin, things got worse. A white sedan started showing up across from my place at random times. Never parked for long. Never anyone getting out. But always just long enough for me to notice. I took photos. Plates were out of state. Probably fake. One night, I came home to find my front door unlocked. Nothing taken. Nothing touched. But someone had been inside. I started sleeping with a bat beside my bed. Darnell offered to stay a few nights, and I took him up on it. We didn't talk much. Just watched, waited. It was clear Marcus was just the tip of this mess. Then, about a week later, Darnell got a call. He stepped outside to take it, came back in with a face like stone. "That name on one of those ledgers? J. Bucks? I just found out he got picked up 2 days ago." He rolled. Started naming names. "Does that help us?" "Depends. If he talked about Marcus and they trace that back to you, you're gonna get pulled in too. And not just by the feds. I felt cold. I'm not part of this. Doesn't matter, Darnell said. You've got the box. You've got the story. You're a threat. So now I'm stuck. I own a house that's been turned into evidence. I've pissed off a group of people I don't even know. And I'm in possession of a box that could bring down a whole operation. No one's knocking down my door yet. But I know they're watching. And I know it's not over. A few days after Darnell's warning, I got a letter in the mail. It was plain. No return address. No stamp. Just slipped through the slot sometime overnight. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Bring the box to the corner of 7th and Chicon. Thursday, midnight. Alone. No threats. No demands. Just that. I showed it to Darnell. He didn't like it. This means they know you didn't give it to the cops yet, he said. They're watching closer than we thought. Should I go? No. But we're going anyway. Thursday night, Darnell and I parked 2 blocks away. I didn't bring the real box. Just a decoy we'd thrown together with scrap paper and fake receipts. I waited on the corner at midnight, heart pounding, while Darnell watched from a distance with his concealed carry. No one came. Not at first. Then, at 12:22 a.m., a black SUV rolled up. Windows tinted. It stopped at the curb. The back window rolled down just a few inches. A voice, calm, deep, said, "You're playing a dangerous game." I didn't respond. "You don't want this heat. Bring the real box. Last chance." Then the SUV rolled off. No plate. No face. Just the message. I ran back to Darnell. We both knew what that meant. They were serious. And they were still giving me a chance to play ball for now. But something didn't sit right. Why hadn't they just taken the box already? Why go through warnings, window smashing, and letters? Maybe they can't, Darnell said slowly. Maybe they're being watched too. Feds could be onto them. Maybe they want to keep this quiet. It gave me an idea. If the feds were watching them and they thought I was working with them, maybe I could turn the heat around. If they wanted the box so badly, maybe the box was worth even more than we thought. I needed more leverage. So I called someone I never thought I'd call, my ex-wife's brother, Rodney. Rodney's a PI. A damn good one. We hadn't spoken in 5 years. Not since the divorce. But I remembered one thing. He hated shady operations more than he hated me. You think you can dig up something if I give you a name? I can try. What's the name? I gave him the aliases from the ledgers J. Bucks, D. Smooth, Nino T, and Coach L. Rodney got back to me in 48 hours. J. Bucks is done. D.A. has him, but word is he's going into witness protection. D. Smooth is connected to 3 strip clubs and some laundromats in East Austin. Nino T is a middleman, does club security. Coach L? That's your problem. What do you mean? Coach L isn't just local. He's a liaison. Links Austin to operations in Dallas and Houston. Rumors say he's ex-military, kicked out for misconduct. Now he handles movement and logistics, drugs, cash, people. So Club Marcus wasn't just a wild party house. It was a hub. A node. And Marcus was probably the least important piece of the whole puzzle. Rodney's research also turned up something else, a name that stopped me cold. My contractor. 2 months before Marcus moved in, I'd hired a contractor to do repairs on the rental. A guy named Leo Estrada. Friendly, cheap, and efficient. But his name popped up in Rodney's database connected to permits pulled for 3 other houses now flagged by the DEA. I stared at the photo Rodney sent. It was Leo. But his real name was Lionel Rivera. And he wasn't just a contractor. He was a frontman. The one who scoped properties, made them party ready, and reported back. So Marcus didn't find my house by accident. They found it. They planned it. They groomed me. And I handed them the keys. My hands started shaking. The pieces clicked too fast. That broken HVAC unit? The new locks Leo upgraded? He probably bugged the place. They'd been watching before Marcus ever moved in. I sat down with Darnell and told him everything. He leaned back, quiet. This ain't about just getting you to give the box back, he said finally. This is about tying up loose ends. You think they'll come after me? I think they already are. We moved the real box to a safety deposit vault under my uncle's name in Temple, Texas. Then I drove to Dallas to meet with a retired federal investigator Darnell used to work with, a guy named Kenley who now did private consulting. Kenley reviewed everything. The ledgers. The messages. The SUV encounter. The contractor link. This isn't just one group, he said. This is a pipeline. They use Airbnb and rentals as mobile fronts. Every party is a cover for deals. Your house was just a dot in a much bigger chain. Why hasn't it been shut down yet? Because every time someone talks, they disappear. And the people behind it? They don't scare easy. Kenley paused, then gave me a look. You still got the phone from the box? Yeah. Check the cloud backups. I hadn't even thought about that. Turns out, the phone had been syncing automatically to a Google account and not just messages. Audio clips. Video clips. Some of them of Marcus. But others weren't. One video showed a man couldn't see his face exchanging a black duffel bag with a group of people at a location that looked like the back alley of my rental. Another showed a small white van pulling into the yard behind the house around 3 a.m. Two men unloaded crates marked with numbers. The timestamp? 2 days before Marcus was arrested. They were still using the house. Even after he was gone. That's when it hit me. Marcus being taken away? That might have been part of the plan too. The video clips were the final blow. They showed me what I had refused to believe. The house was still part of the operation even after Marcus was arrested. He was never the main guy. Just a pawn, maybe even a distraction. And I played right into their hands. I went back over everything. All my choices. Letting Marcus move in without digging deeper. Not questioning how Leo or Lionel found my rental so easily. Ignoring those tiny red flags early on because the rent was always on time. I was part of this mess. I gave them the space. I ignored the cracks. I chose the quiet road when I should have made noise. But it was time to make noise now. I gave everything to Kenley, the videos, the messages, the ledgers, and the synced cloud account. He said he had contacts in the federal task force who were already working on organized rental-based drug routes across Texas. My box, my phone, my evidence, it wasn't just helpful. It was gold. We waited. 2 weeks passed. Then, one by one, it started. The first raid hit a property in San Antonio. Then Houston. Then 3 clubs in East Austin, all tied to D-Smooth. By the end of the month, nearly a dozen people were arrested across 3 cities. But Coach L? He vanished. Marcus? He was still locked up. But according to Kenley's contact, he had stopped talking. Maybe out of fear. Maybe because he realized he had been used too. I thought it was over. I was wrong. One night, around 3 a.m., my phone rang. It was Rodney. He sounded out of breath. There's a fire, he said. Your rental's on fire. I got there as fast as I could. The house was engulfed in flames. Fire trucks already there. Neighbors in robes watching from their yards. One wall had completely collapsed. The smell of burning wood, plastic, and gasoline filled the air. They torched it. The last message. The last warning. The fire marshal ruled it suspicious. But no cameras caught the arsonists. No prints. No leads. That house was gone. All of it, the floors I'd laid with my own hands, the paint I'd rolled on the walls, the dream of building something that would help me retire in peace, gone in a plume of smoke and revenge. The insurance covered part of the damage. Not all. I was still left with a debt. A lawsuit from the city for code violations after the fire. A pile of stress and years shaved off my life. But I wasn't done. I gave an anonymous tip to the local news. Told them about the growing underground operation using short-term rentals and Airbnbs across the state. I even shared video footage anonymously, just enough to cause noise. Enough to shake a few trees. Then I did something petty. Something vengeful. I found Lionel Rivera's online contractor profile, the one he used to scout other homes. I posted the whole file under it. The cloud backups. The phone number. I didn't post my name. Didn't have to. The story spread fast, Reddit, Twitter, local forums. His face was out there now. He made a mistake using my house. I made a mistake trusting him. But I had nothing left to lose. A month later, I read a short article buried in the crime section of the local paper. Unidentified man found dead in abandoned property. Authorities suspect cartel involvement. Investigation ongoing. No name listed. But the photo of the body's tattoos? It was Lionel. That night, I sat in my apartment. Smaller, quieter, safer, and stared at the wall. I wasn't proud of everything I'd done, but I'd survived. I'd fought back. And in a world where monsters like Marcus and Lionel thought they could walk over people like me, I smiled for the first time in weeks. They picked the wrong landlord.